Welcome to Happy Hips Challenge Video 5. I'm so excited to have you here. So last week, we talked a little bit about looking at our feet and analyzing what our feet were doing in comparison to the tightness we felt in our hips. So one thing that I will often see with that kinetic chain effect is if the arches are really weak. So if somebody tends to collapse down, so maybe their foot wants to turn out a little bit, maybe their arch wants to collapse in, then the hip says, uh-oh, that shouldn't happen, and it tries to engage and squeeze in those deep hip rotators where you're looking at maybe obturator tightness, piriformis tightness. You get a lot of tightness in here, glute medius tightness, where our hip is trying to lift our arch. Isn't that a helpful system? It is helpful. We need to run away from a tiger. I love how our body always has these little fail safes. Like we tear a rotator cuff, we manage to be able to get by. We tear our pelvic floor delivering. There's a lot of pelvic floor muscles that can help pick up the slack. Okay, so the body has amazing fail safes for when one part of the system maybe starts to weaken or not work quite like it should. Then we have another part that's going to help take over, which was really great when we lived to be 30 and had to run away from saber-toothed tigers, but not so great now when we have lots of repetitive motion in a very westernized society. Okay, so if your foot and arch strength is poor in relation to the demand you place on it, then you tend to collapse in a little bit. Your hip is going to try to pick up that slack. At least that is what I have seen. That is my theory on this. Because I've just seen so many people with chronic pelvic floor tightness, chronic hip tightness, and I look at their feet and we work on their arch strength, and then all of a sudden their system is working better. So I want you to look down and I want you to see, can you spread your toes out? Can you spread those toes, or does your big toe sit in and your toes sit scrunched together? So this is really important. I want you to make sure that you can get those toes nice and spread and that you can get your arch to engage. And so what this is going to do is it's going to help take the stress and strain off of your hip. So your challenge today is when you're standing around brushing your teeth, you're in the shower washing your hair, you're doing activities where you can look down and see your feet. I want you to make sure that your toes are spread and your feet are straight. And this is going to be your challenge when you're just standing barefoot in your house, to check in on this several times during the day, because repositioning, opening those toes, making sure your arches aren't collapsed in and toes turned in and scrunched together is going to be the first step for you for strengthening your arches. Now, there's lots of exercises we can do, but building that awareness is where I want you to start, because it doesn't do us any good to do X, Y, and Z exercises and then stand like this during the day. It really doesn't. Okay, so unless we try to build things into our life and we try to carry over a little bit, then we're going to probably see those problems reoccur and we're not going to get the benefit of the exercise we're looking for. Okay, so your challenge today is to spread those toes, make sure your arches aren't collapsed in, and when you stand like this, making sure that your arches aren't collapsed in and your toes are spread, you relax your hips. Okay, so if you need to squeeze your glutes and then let them go, and what you might find is that you have a little bit of less clenching just naturally from increasing that base of support from the ground up. Now, if you can't get your toes to spread on your own, you can just reach down and pull that big toe out, okay, and get it to spread that way. So you might have to actually help your toes spread to get them to respond to the floor. But that's where I want you to start, and that is your challenge today. And then in our next video, we're gonna dive into one of my favorite glute exercises for decreasing all of that tightness and getting that glute max to work.